The night before my wedding, I heard them through the wall. Ruin her dress. Lose the rings. She doesn't deserve him. My maid of honor said it laughing. I've been working on him for months. I didn't make a sound. But by morning, nothing about that wedding was going the way she thought it would. It was 11:47 at night, and I was perched on the edge of a king-sized hotel mattress in an oversized college hoodie and 2 socks that didn't match, finishing off the last strawberry from a room service fruit tray, when I heard the woman who'd been my closest friend for 11 years calmly discussing how she planned to destroy my wedding. Not in some abstract, exaggerated way. Word for word. Right through the thin wall connecting our 2 suites. And her voice wasn't shaking or scheming in some cartoonish whisper, it was flat, almost bored, the tone of someone ordering a latte. The kind of calm that only comes from having said something so many times in your head that it stopped registering as monstrous. Spill wine on the dress, she said. Lose the rings, whatever it takes. She doesn't deserve him. I put the strawberry down. Not dropped, set down, deliberately, like some quiet, calculating part of my brain had already decided I'd need both hands free for whatever came next. Then came the sentence that still surfaces in my head during silent moments. Men like Ethan don't marry girls like Olivia unless they want somebody safe. I'm just fixing his mistake. My name. She used my name. And something warm and trusting that I'd carried for over a decade split down the middle and dropped away, just like that. I want to be clear, I didn't cry, didn't gasp, didn't throw anything. I just sat there in my mismatched socks, my heartbeat doing something strange and slow in my throat, thinking, okay, so that's who she really is. Then I picked up my phone and hit record. You need the backstory first, because you can't understand what that moment cost me without knowing what Vanessa used to mean to me. We met the first week of freshman year, in a scene almost too on the nose to be real. She was in our dorm hallway, locked in an actual verbal standoff with a vending machine that had swallowed her dollar and refused to release a bag of crackers. I stood there and watched her argue with the machine, out loud, full sentences, making her case, for a solid half-minute before she spun around and caught me staring. It owes me, she said, dead serious. I laughed. That was it. That was the start of 11 years, birthday dinners, 2 a.m. phone calls, airport pickups, the specific closeness that comes from knowing someone's most embarrassing stories and never once using them against her. She was the first call I made when my father had his heart attack. She sat beside me in that waiting room. She helped me choose the dress I wore to bury him 2 years later. She was there, or so I believed. I'm still working out the difference. Ethan came into my life 4 years ago, at a work function I almost skipped entirely. One of those obligatory mixers where everyone nurses a glass of wine and performs enjoyment. He was against the wall near the exit, wearing the exact expression of a man plotting his escape route. I recognized it instantly because I was wearing the same one. We ended up together on the fire escape outside, talking about nothing, then everything, and 2 hours passed before someone came looking for us. By then, I'd already quietly, without admitting it, decided I was in trouble. 14 months later, he proposed in our kitchen. No grand gesture. Just a Sunday, him frying eggs, me scrolling my phone, and then he turned around and said, I want to do this, exactly this, forever with you. Ring already in hand. I said yes before he even finished talking. Vanessa was my first call. She screamed. She cried. She drove 40 minutes just to see the ring in person. She volunteered herself as maid of honor before I'd even asked. For the 8 months that followed, she threw herself into the wedding with an intensity one mistook, genuinely mistook, for love. Devotion. The kind only a ride or die is capable of. Looking back now, I see it differently. I see how she inserted herself into every single decision, venue, flowers, catering, timeline, and how her preferences always tilted things slightly away from what I actually wanted and towards something that felt more like her taste than mine. I told myself she just had better instincts. I told myself it was love. I told myself the low, persistent unease I sometimes felt was ordinary wedding jitters. I told myself a lot of things. I noticed how she laughed at Ethan's jokes half a second too long. How she touched his arm mid-sentence, not flirtatious exactly, or at least nothing I could point to without sounding paranoid. How she always managed to land beside him in every group photo. How, twice, she'd suggested Ethan and I take some space, before the big day, just to make the reunion sweeter, conveniently offering to keep him company at the events I wouldn't be attending. I noticed everything. And I dismissed all of it, again and again, because she was my best friend, and doubting her felt indistinguishable from doubting myself. She'd insisted on carrying the rings during the ceremony. It's tradition, she told me. The maid of honor holds the rings. It's an honor. I agreed. Why wouldn't I? Now I understood exactly why I shouldn't have. The voice arguing the side Vanessa's belonged to Kendra, technically my bridesmaid, though she'd always been Vanessa's friend first, folded into the wedding party because Vanessa wanted her there, and I wanted Vanessa happy. And I was the sort of person who made those accommodations without ever asking why. "You're evil," Kendra said, giggling the specific giggle that means I know this is wrong and I'm loving it anyway. "I've been working on him for months," Vanessa answered. I need you to feel the particular silence that followed. Not silence in the room, silence inside me. The sudden vanishing of a hum of trust I'd been running on for 11 years, like background noise you never notice until it stops, and the quiet afterward rings louder than the noise ever did. "What if she finds out?" Kendra asked. Vanessa actually laughed. Genuine, unbothered laughter. "She never notices anything until it's too late." That line, that specific sentence, was the real turning point. Not because it was cruel, but because it was so confident. She wasn't hoping I wouldn't catch on. She knew I wouldn't. She'd tested that theory for months, maybe years, and built her entire plan on the reliability of my blindness. My hands were steady when I opened the voice recorder app. That surprised me. I'd expected shaking. Instead, they moved with a strange, cold precision, like they belonged to somebody slightly different from the woman who'd been eating fruit and rehearsing vows 5 minutes earlier. I pressed record, crossed to the connecting door in sock feet, carpet swallowing every footstep, and held my phone against the narrow gap beneath it. For 4 minutes and 17 seconds, I captured everything: the dress, the rings, the months of working on Ethan, the backup plans for if I noticed, Kendra questioning whether the ring sabotage was really necessary, and Vanessa answering, almost proud of her own logic. "The rings are the most visible part. If they go missing, it derails everything." For minutes, 17 seconds. Crystal clear audio. Back at the bed, I played it once to confirm it was usable. Then I set the phone face down beside my vow cards and stared at the ceiling for a long while. Then I picked the phone back up and started making calls. 12:03 a.m. I called Marissa Delgado, my wedding planner of 19 years, exactly the kind of woman you want in your corner during a crisis. Calm, methodical, always 3 contingency plans deep. She picked up on the second ring, already awake, probably reviewing tomorrow's schedule. "Olivia? What's wrong?" "I need you to listen." "Then I need your help changing some things." I told her everything and played the recording through the phone. A long pause followed. "Okay," she said, not shock, not disbelief, just, "Okay. Here's what we're doing." 12:31 a.m. My wedding dress, hanging in its garment bag on the bathroom door, was relocated to a locked storage room on the 3rd floor, access code known only to Marissa. The hotel manager, Derek Osei, personally handled the move and quietly stationed a staff member near my original suite. 12:47 a.m. I texted my brother Ryan, 34, 6'2", a corporate security professional not prone to panic. I sent him the audio clip. His reply, on my way up. "Tell me what you need." I told him. He'd carry the rings, not the box Vanessa expected, but a decoy, identical on the outside, holding 2 plain silver bands Marissa sourced from the gift shop at midnight. The real rings would live in his jacket pocket, delivered directly to the officiant at the right moment. 1:14 a.m. I called my cousin Chloe and booked a second suite under her name. Hair and makeup, officially rerouted. My own phone, come morning, would ring straight to voicemail. Only Marissa's coordination line would stay active, feeding information strictly on a need-to-know basis. 1:38 a.m. I went down to the front desk and spoke with the night manager, Priya, who absorbed the entire situation without blinking and arranged an updated guest access list for security by 6 a.m. 2 names flagged for restricted areas: the suite, the bridal prep rooms, the catering zones, Vanessa Callahan and Kendra Marsh. Quietly revoked. No scene. Just a firm redirection when the moment came. 2:36 a.m. I texted Ethan, "We're making some quiet changes tomorrow. Trust me. Don't react yet." He answered in under a minute. "I trust you. Tell me what to do." I sat with that message for a long moment, because in the strange clarity of 2:36 in the morning, after the worst and somehow best night of my life, I understood the exact flaw in Vanessa's entire scheme. She thought Ethan chose me because I was the safe, comfortable option, and that enough chaos, enough disruption, would nudge him toward reconsidering. She thought she understood him. She didn't know that on our 3rd date he spent 40 minutes in the rain helping a stranger change a flat tire and never once turned it into a story afterward. She didn't know he called his mother every single Sunday and meant it. She didn't know that 6 months into us, he told me what he loved most wasn't anything on the surface, it was the way I paid attention. The way I noticed things. She never notices anything until it's too late. She was wrong. And worse for her, she never bothered to actually check. Keep your phone on, I texted Ethan back. Everything's handled. I love you more than I know how to say. Try to sleep. I'll be at the altar. I set the phone down and reread my vow cards written 3 weeks earlier, revised twice, finalized the previous Tuesday. I thought about rewriting them. I didn't. They were still true. Truer now, maybe, given everything I now knew. By 6 a.m. I was up, running on 3 hours of sleep that somehow felt like a gift. By 7:30, I was in Chloe's suite in a robe, drinking the best coffee of my life, probably because I'd earned every sip, while a stylist named B worked on Chloe's hair, completely unaware anything had happened, chatting about some show she was watching. At 9:47, Vanessa called my phone for the first time. I watched the screen light up and let it go to voicemail. 10:02, voicemail again. Then 10:11, 10:24, 10:29. 10:52, 6 calls total, and not a single text. She was smart enough to keep everything off the record, which told me this whole scheme had been built by a version of her that never imagined needing to be careful. Kendra texted from a number I rarely used. Where are you? Here's here. Marissa's coordination line replied on my behalf. Schedule updated. Please proceed to the venue by 1 p.m. Everything is on track. I laughed quietly into my coffee. Chloe, who'd known everything since 1:14 that morning, she'd cried, then gone furious, then snapped into the calm efficiency of someone who's run a non-profit for 7 years, looked at me and said, "You're a terrifyingly calm person, you know that." "I feel like jelly on the inside," I told her. "You look like someone who already won." "I thought about that." "I think I might have," I said. "Strange thing to think on your wedding day." "Best wedding story ever," she said. "Your grandkids are gonna beg for this one." We got to the venue, Harborview Chapel, Vanessa's suggestion, of all places, something I'll be sitting with for a long time, at 12:15. Old stone walls, tall windows overlooking the water, that particular golden afternoon light. Everything I'd wanted when I agreed to it. Marissa was already there, clipboard in hand, moving like a general who'd already scouted the whole battlefield. She pulled me aside before I walked in. "They're here," she said. "Arrived 10 minutes ago. Tried to get into the bridal suite. Security redirected them to the main foyer." "How'd that go?" "Vanessa asked to speak with you." A pause. "I told her you were unavailable, everything was on schedule, and she should find her seat." "Was she angry?" "She was controlled. Which honestly might be worse." She studied me. "Are you ready in case she finds you before the ceremony?" "Yes," I said. "Good." She handed me an earpiece, a two-way channel linking her, Ryan, and Derek from the hotel, who'd come along as extra coordination support. "Ryan has the rings. Ethan's been briefed, he knows the decoy plan, and he's confirmed with the officiant. Your guests are seated. The program's been printed." The program. I'd revised it myself at 3 in the morning. The hotel's business center had every copy reprinted by 7. Vanessa Callahan, maid of honor. Kendra Marsh, bridesmaid. Both names gone. In their place, one italicized line beneath the wedding party listing. "The bride is accompanied by family and lifelong friends whose love has carried her here." I walked into the bridal room and put on the real dress, the one Vanessa never touched. Marissa zipped it up. Chloe pressed the bouquet into my hands. My mother, who'd driven 3 hours and knew none of this, took one look at me and covered her mouth. "Oh, Olivia," she said. "I know," I said back. "That's when Vanessa found me." She came through a side door, maybe followed someone in, maybe just knew the venue well enough from the planning process to find an unguarded entrance. Pale blue bridesmaid dress. Hair flawless. Makeup untouched. And her face, seeing me in the gown, did something complicated for exactly half a second, something that might once have been real affection. Then it closed over, replaced by the look of someone rapidly calculating their best angle. My mother and Chloe froze. "I need a minute with Olivia," Vanessa said. "I'm fine," I told them. "Give us a second." They stepped back, just out of earshot. Vanessa came close, voice low and measured, the tone of someone whose decided restraint is her last good option. "You cannot do this to me. On your wedding day." I looked at her. 11 years of studying this face, and now I was seeing an expression I'd never cataloged before, the one underneath, the version that exists only once there's nothing left worth performing for. "I already did," I said. "Over some private conversation?" A slight tightening around her eyes, testing whether guilt or hesitation would surface, the reflexive apology she'd probably watched me perform 100 times before. "Over you planning to ruin my dress," I said, "lose my rings, and spend months trying to get with my fiancé." "That's not what." "I recorded it, Vanessa." The color drained out of her face, not gradually, just gone, all at once, beneath the foundation and highlighter. She stood there frozen for 3 full seconds, saying nothing. Then she reached for the only thing she had left. "So you're throwing away 11 years of friendship over a man?" I almost smiled, felt it tug at the corner of my mouth and let it sit there. "No," I said quietly. "I'm ending a fake friendship over character." She opened her mouth, closed it again. There was nothing left to say, no defense that didn't require confirming the recording was real, no appeal that didn't demand I extend the exact trust she'd just spent months abusing. No version of that conversation where she came out ahead because her whole strategy had been built on the assumption that I was someone who could be managed, handled, safely underestimated. I turned back to the mirror and checked my lipstick. "You should find your seat," I told her. "Ceremony starts in 12 minutes. Ryan walked me down the aisle. He's not sentimental, coaches youth basketball, cries at exactly one category of thing, dogs in movies, nothing else. But when he offered his arm at the chapel doors, something crossed his face that made me have to look away and breathe for a second. "You good?" he asked. "I'm so good," I said. "That's my sister," he murmured, not really to me. Just said it into the air. The doors opened. I walked into the rest of my life. I'd worried, in some small 3 a.m. way, that the night's chaos would leave a shadow over this moment, that I'd walk toward Ethan still carrying the adrenaline, the grief of what I'd lost. But when the doors swung open and I saw him standing there, steady hands, bright eyes, that specific look he gets when he's fighting not to cry, every bit of that noise went quiet. He looked at me the way he always looks at me. Never once like settling. Never once like safety alone. Like being genuinely, specifically seen. Off to my left, second row, half hidden behind a floral arrangement Vanessa herself had helped select, I caught sight of her, pale blue dress, perfect posture, eyes fixed straight ahead. Beside her, Kendra, phone in her lap, working hard at looking unbothered. 2 women dressed for roles they no longer held, watching a wedding they'd tried to sabotage. I looked away, back at Ethan. The officiant began. When the moment came, Ryan stepped forward with the real rings, not the decoy, the actual case, pulled from his inside jacket pocket with the quiet care of a man trusted with something important. He handed them to the officiant. Across the room, I watched Vanessa's knuckles go white around her program as it landed on her. The box she was supposed to be holding, the one she'd planned to lose, had never mattered at all. For half a second, I almost felt something for her. Not forgiveness, not that, maybe not ever, but something like grief, for whatever version of her might once have been genuine. For 11 years of memories I'd now have to sort through like an old box of photographs, checking each one for what was real and what had only ever been a performance. Almost. Then Ethan took my hands, and everything else fell away again. I read my vows, the ones written 3 weeks earlier, unchanged, because they were still true. He watched my face the whole time. When I finished, he took an unsteady breath. "I had a whole speech prepared," he said. "Practiced it. Had note cards." A pause. "I think I'm gonna say something different." I laughed. Half the room laughed with me. "What I want to say," he went on, "is that for 4 years I've known you're the most observant person I've ever met. You notice everything. You see people clearly. And somehow, you chose to really see me and decided I was worth staying for." His voice steadied. "I spent my whole life hoping I'd find someone who'd actually see me. You do. Every day. I plan to spend the rest of my life making sure you know it." He told me later he had no idea just how true those words were about to become. When the officiant spoke the final words, he slid the ring onto my finger. I slid his onto him. Across the room, an empty decoy box sat forgotten in a pale blue clutch, the centerpiece of a plan already dismantled from the inside out. "You may kiss the bride." Before he did, he whispered, "Just for me, you saved us." "We saved us," I whispered back. At the reception, Vanessa and Kendra sat at a table near the back, far from the head table, far from the toasts, far from the dance floor. I know this because Marissa told me afterward, with the same brisk professionalism she'd used all night. Their place cards had been quietly relocated. They ate the same dinner as everyone else. Nobody was cruel to them. They simply weren't part of anything that mattered anymore. During his toast, Ryan talked about watching his little sister become more herself under pressure, not less. He never mentioned the night before. He didn't need to. "To Olivia, who always knows exactly what she's doing," he said, raising his glass. "And to Ethan, smart enough to figure that out." They left before the cake. Marissa slipped me the news in 2 words. "They're gone." I nodded, and then Chloe grabbed my hand and pulled me onto the dance floor, and the band played something loud and ridiculous, and I danced with my husband under the harbor lights. I didn't think about Vanessa again until the car ride back to the hotel, and even then, only briefly. Long enough to feel the loss of it. Not of her, exactly. Of who I'd believed she was. Of 11 years I'd assumed were real. Ethan noticed. He knows my silences. You okay? I think so, I said. I think I will be. Want to talk about it? Not tonight, I said. Tonight I just want this. He held my hand the rest of the way and didn't let go. Some of this is still being sorted through. Some of it sits in a lawyer's file I'm not sure we'll ever need opening. I did consult an attorney, Patricia Sohn, 22 years in family and civil law, who once helped a client sue a business partner for sabotaging a wedding over an affair. She listened to the recording, reviewed my documented timeline, and told me I likely had grounds for harassment, possibly tortious interference. I haven't filed anything. I'm holding onto the option. The recording exists in 3 places now: my phone, a cloud backup, and Patricia's secure server, and it'll stay there for as long as I feel like it needs to. Vanessa called twice the week after the wedding. I didn't pick up. She sent one text: "I think you owe me the chance to explain." I read it, set the phone down, and went for a walk. When I got back, I blocked her number. Haven't unblocked it since. Kendra sent a longer message, a half apology that somehow made the whole thing about how awkward it was for her, with barely a mention of what they'd actually planned to do. I read it once and deleted it. A few mutual friends have asked if Vanessa and I had a falling out. I've told them the truth, mostly. I haven't shared the recording, not yet. There's a difference between justice and setting fire to everything, and I'm interested in the former, not the latter. Here's what actually matters. 7 months after the wedding, Ethan and I are in our apartment on a Sunday morning. He's frying eggs. I'm scrolling my phone. It's exactly the forever he asked for in that kitchen 4 years ago. Ordinary, specific, nothing photogenic about it, just quietly, completely everything. We adopted a rescue shepherd mix named Biscuit, who Ethan tears up over basically every time she does anything remotely cute. This ordinary, unremarkable, entirely real life, is what Vanessa was actually trying to take. Not Ethan. She never understood Ethan, not really. She wanted this, the quiet, whole thing underneath. And she never got it. What she got instead was a seat in the second row, an empty decoy ring box, a recording sitting on a lawyer's server, a blocked number, and the plain, unglamorous consequence of mistaking someone's patience for stupidity. I don't hate her. I mean that. Hatred would mean still spending my time thinking about her, and I've got better things to think about. I just know exactly who she is now. And she's the one who has to live with that. I don't.